Hello, everybody, and welcome to a lightning talk on transitioning a faculty development model into teaching practice. If it works for faculty, why not students? I'm Nick Heiser, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Dr. Karen Pakula, and we're going to share with you some really cool stuff, how we have worked together to combine some really great practices in faculty development and student teaching. So I'm going to turn it first over to Dr. Karen Pakula, who will describe the model that she started with our Minnesota State Learning Circles. So take it away, Karen.
Okay, my name is Karen Pakula, and I teach psychology at Central Lakes College in Brainerd, Minnesota, same institution that Nick works at. And I also am the OER Faculty Development Coordinator for Minnesota State. And Nick asked me to give a brief background on the Learning Circle model that I've created. It's a very successful institutional OER faculty development learning circle model that we have successfully scaled from an institutional level to a system level. And our OER faculty development model is really a model for success. This model offers Minnesota State faculty an opportunity to structure and organize their OER work in a resource-rich, cross-disciplinary, cross-institutional, peer librarian, and facilitator-supported collegial work environment. It offers faculty a choice to work in 3 different pathways. The first pathway is course redesign, where faculty actually take a course and redesign it using selected OER materials. The second pathway is an authoring pathway, where faculty will author like ancillary materials, perhaps a textbook or other OER learning resources. And then the other opportunity is a participation in OER Learning Circle Leader Practicum, where past Learning Circle participants work with me to create their own D2L support course room and help me facilitate 10-week sessions of learning circles. They leave with the knowledge, materials, and skills to lead their own OER learning circles on their respective campuses. The structure of the model is that faculty work in facilitated cross-disciplinary collaborative learning circles for a semester, which is 10 weeks, or for a summer session, which is 5 weeks. We meet for 1 hour per week in a virtual learning circle face-to-face course room, where they share their pearls, which are thoughts, ideas, and questions that may have come up to them, kind of aha moments throughout their week. They have access to a Brightspace D2L faculty support course room. Participants share their ideas and support each other through their chosen learning circle pathway. Faculty on all pathways must attend a minimum of 80% of the scheduled learning circle meetings, and faculty all receive a stipend for their work. At the end of the learning circle session, participants share their final projects in a final showcase event. So with that being said, I think I'm going to let Nick take over now and tell how he has participated in these learning circles and now applied many of the things from that model to use with his own students.
Thanks, Karen. So when I participated in these learning circles, they were a great experience for me. And I was reflecting on what made them a great experience when I was thinking about how to use OER in my classes. And upon reflection, what I thought about is what I really enjoyed about the experience was that at the beginning of the experience, I created a plan that was my own plan with goals and some tangible outcomes that I designed that I wanted to achieve. So it was very personalized and individualized based upon my interests and my strengths. I also was forced, because of participating in the Learning Circle, to think deeply about what I was learning, what I was experiencing through what Karen shared as pearls. And at the end of the day, I had a project, at the end of the Learning Circle, I had a project that I was passionate about that I could point to and said, I did this. And upon this reflection, I thought, well, if this works for me, why wouldn't it work for students? And so I took this with some help from Dr. Pakula And I translated this into teaching practice. So I utilize concepts of open pedagogy to allow students to apply their learning in a strengths-based manner. I did it via an asynchronous learning experience in D2L. And upon further research, I found that there's a lot of best practices that are related to open pedagogy that really strengthen student engagement in learning, that you can see referenced on this slide. So there's a lot of great research out there about how to use open pedagogy and open educational resources to benefit students. And I found some really good takeaways as a result of this. So what did I do? Well, I had some student responsibilities and student resources. So the student responsibilities were that they would complete a chapter test that was multiple choice and true false, that was really checking for recall and comprehension, that was designed by other students. They had to complete discussion postings where they shared the most important concept that they learned from materials or the lecture that I had recorded, the readings. And then this is most significant, they had to complete an applied management project. And so I supported that learning, but I really allowed for it to be very much student driven in terms of what was important to them, just like the Learning Circle model was. In the discussion posting, they had to share, and you can see the prompt right there, I allowed them to share what was most important to them. And the great thing about this is, number one, I read a lot of different things. And just asking them about what was the most important, I think required them to stop and think, what is the most important that I'm learning and that I'm applying? Even if they didn't think anything was important, they had to think intentionally about what is important to me. It also made it so no one could really copy someone else's work because they had to explain it in their own words why it was important to them. And you can see how I graded and what kind of rubric I had for providing points to them below. Then I allowed them to complete an applied management project where I gave them 10 options of projects they could do every week that they could use to apply what they were learning into something that they would produce, something that at the end of the day they could say, I created and I did. And so they made this plan at the beginning of the class where they could choose different types of projects to do based upon the content. In fact, that was their first week assignment, was to create a work plan for me of how they would apply a different chapter that was assigned each week from the course, along with supplementary materials that I would create to a project of their own creation. So by the end of the course, they would have 15 or 16 projects that they had completed that was their own, that was unique to them, that related to what was most important about the course and their learning. So they learn by doing. You can see here that I had a rubric that I provided for them in terms of what I was looking for in the projects and how I graded them. And so it was a bit, work intensive to grade this. But what I found is students were able to be creative and do things within their strengths. I did require students to choose different projects. I required, and I've changed it a little bit. The first course I required at least 3 different types of projects out of the 10. And then I increased it to 4 or 5, and I went back to 4, just to allow them to encourage them to mix it up a little bit and to go outside of their comfort zone while still giving them some choice in the matter. So that was really the experiences that I wanted to share with this model. And again, I think there's research and evidence that that can show in this. I'm still utilizing these elements. So I think there's not enough time to do a study in terms of grades and student success, but the feedback I received from student surveys has been very positive. Students liked the fact that they could really drive their own learning. And they especially liked the fact that they had products that they created. They had information that can be used in future courses if they give me permission to do so, whether it's PowerPoint presentations, lectures, current events, case studies that they could really produce. And I may have even convinced a few of them that didn't think they wanted to be a teacher because they created materials that can be used in a class. So I think this is a great example of how we are all learners, whether we're faculty in developmental circles or we're students taking a class. We all benefit when we have some skin in the game and we can apply what we're learning to our own strengths and appearances and background. Thank you.